Critical infrastructure is critical. It's critical to our way of life here in the United States. Many of the critical infrastructure organizations, such as electric power organizations or utilities, they're privately owned, they're privately operated. But ultimately, it's their jobs to make sure that their infrastructure is secure, and therefore our nation's most sensitive infrastructure is secure. So it's a big job. Our whole mission is to help ensure that the critical infrastructure supply chain is secured. We illuminate the entire supply chain from the supplier to the application developers to where those systems are being developed, all the way back to the utilities environment. So when we look at a supply chain solution, our goal is to make sure that every part, every component, every piece of technology is ultimately transparent. We have to now be focused and much more diligent in arming those companies that are frankly operating the front line of our critical infrastructure and our critical infrastructure security profiles. Arm them with all the tools that they can defend themselves so that they can make more informed decisions about the suppliers that they work with, so that they can make better decisions about how to thwart the bad guys that are trying to compromise their networks. There's a couple of major organizations involved in the regulatory landscape of electric power and critical infrastructure. The North American Electric Reliability Corporation. They've developed and approved a set of standards called the Critical Infrastructure Protection Standards, in which we've built a tremendous amount of our solutions around to ensure that our clients have an effective way to comply with those regulatory standards. The North American Transmission Forum, also known as NATF, is helping to develop many of those guidelines and practices. So we monitor those activities between FERC and NERC and NATF very closely, because our customers are ultimately going to be following those standards tooth and nail, and if they do have an issue in terms of compliance, it typically results in financial penalties. We make sure that we follow those standards very closely, and we ensure that we translate those guidance recommendations, the requirements that come from NERC, and translate that into our solutions so that when our customers buy our software, they know that they're going to be in compliance, and they know that they're going to be consistent with today's best practices. When the North American Electric Reliability Corporation tasked NATF to help develop guidelines in relation to SIP 13 or the Supply Chain Risk Management Standards, one of the things that was necessary that NATF felt that that industry needed to have developed was a standardized criteria, a standardized set of questions that would have some consistency and some expectations in terms of how to respond to the buyer's questions about cybersecurity. We've automated those questions into our platform and delivered our platform in such a way that our utilities can simply log into our system, obtain information about their vendors that's consistent with the NERC standards and the NATF criteria. We understand the mission, we understand how important critical infrastructure is, and we're very passionate about our processes and going about protecting that critical infrastructure.